me a few more minutes of your time if you
Sure.
can.
I thought it was until 2:30, so
That'll work. That is what I put on the invite, but in my head I'm like, I'm hoping everybody will still stay. So 2:30 is great.
They're here. Nobody has gone. Most everybody's still on. So
Yes.
everybody staying on. Such an important conversation.
Yes, it really is. And I think you brought up advocacy earlier and the laws that are out there. How do we help you all get under or advocate for the laws, or just sit around the table and have a brainstorm of what the law should be so we can help that process of the journey?
And
because
I think
laws need to change, not even just locally, but they need to change statewide. They need to change nationally.
right.
And still, there's a lot of national work that needs to be done because it's not coming from the top. It is truly from grassroots up. The way the laws are happening right now. So how do we help Christie House or the Women's Fund? How do we help push the agenda as citizens?
And I think that's a wonderful question. And I think kind of, it is grassroots. It is people kind of coming around, these issues, educating themselves, understanding the importance, of these topics and how they need to change within our own communities to then be able to change them, at that global level. So I think also being in contact or understanding, who are your officials, within your, counties, and where you can really start to kind of all come together because, at the end of the day, the votes matter, and so when people start coming together, and really kind of, pushing forward with the elected officials, and trying to let them know we care, we're watching these issues. And now that it's kind of election years coming up, all officials are kind of coming up around these issues, and trafficking is a hot topic. So I think if people were to kind of come together and sit down and really start, trying to, put together like what Xiomara was talking about, and we were just chatting about what's happening with victims and how to continue to protect our children and protect victims, from actually continuing to be charged for a lot of these crimes when they really have been manipulated and they are victims themselves. I think some of these issues are things that we really need to start kind of really pushing forward and putting on the table.
Yeah, and I would add, the next mayor of Miami-Dade is coming up this year. So it is so important that we ask those hard questions. What are you standing for? Who are you championing for? Who, through our district, Congress, senators, everyone that's in it, it is so important that we put that pressure on as a community, and really not only for this, but for stuff that we're, gun violence, everything that goes through in our community. It's so important that we really take a stand and we vote and we involve ourselves and we make our voice heard and we vote and we put officials that are actually gonna, be champions for what we're passionate about. But also keep in mind, this is a very dark situation. Sex trafficking is very dark. And from my understanding, Marta will know more, but for what I've learned so far is that, the ones that we've talked about, the traffickers, we've talked about the victims, but we need to also talk about who is demanding this, who are the ones paying for it. And believe it or not, there are the doctors, the police department, the police, the doctors, like I mentioned, officials,
lawyers,
political officials. These are the people that actually have the money, because it's not cheap, that have the money to pay this and sustain this problem. Again, they have the money. So we need to keep that in mind. Funding for against human sex trafficking is very challenging. Christie House, although I'm sure, you guys are doing great, they can still use funding. They can still use funding to continue to champion this. Other organizations in our community that are taking a stand. So let's support them to continue their work, but let's also come together and figure out how can we select these officials, ask the questions, and not only ask the questions and put that demand, but once we elect them, continue to hold them accountable to it. And then let's bring them to the light. This is a dark topic that needs to be brought to the light. So that means not only educate yourself, but also share with others, speak about it with others. I'm sure Marta has had multiple conversations where people are like, what, that happens here? No way. You know, and like she shared, we are #1 in Florida. So it's so important that we, as a community, take this on as humans, come together in our own humanity and understand this is an issue that are literally humans are being sold. And again, but understanding where the demand comes from. So,
and understanding that this is happening to our children in our community, in our backyard.
It's not just international. It is international. And obviously Miami, I would think, this is my opinion, Marta, but obviously I think one of the reasons we're #1 is because we're a port. You know, we bring kids in and out, but like she said, I didn't know that 95% of their children are local. I know another organization that deals with international children. But yes, this is a local issue. This is your sisters, your brother, your nephew, your nieces, your aunties, because this is not only a child problem. I mean, we're talking about children at this time, but this is also a woman issue. There's a men issue. Like, this is an issue, period. And again, let's educate ourselves. Let's get involved. Let's have that round table like you spoke about, Lucretia. This is something that after the Stop Sex Trafficking campaign, there's been a little bit more push in regards to that. So there's still so much work to do. What does that look like? I'm not sure yet. I will let you know though. I will definitely ask this question, let you know, and let's come together and let's do, again, this is a human issue.
I will go back to saying it is a local issue, because it is a global issue.
Yes.
And yes, this does happen internationally. And yes, children are brought in, for these things as well. And that does happen. But the majority of the kids that we see at Christie House are our local children, here from our own counties that are being, trafficked. And so people just, when you say that to them, their minds are blown, It's like, what are you talking about? How is that possible? But it absolutely, is possible. So we need to protect, our children, our babies here, in our own community.
Yeah.
Let's nurture our children.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, let's nurture our children. Like Sophia, I apologize if I said it wrong, but yes, many children, our biggest triggers is abandonment or rejection or anything like that from our own personal abuse. Some of us were lucky enough to be able to, be vulnerable, but some of us are not. So let's really nurture, our children. That's why I love what you guys do. I'm a big fan of the Overtown Children Coalition, and all that you guys do. Aftercare programs are so important in our community. You guys receive the children in a more vulnerable time, they're more relaxed, they're not like, with school. So you're able to see more, you're able to connect with them more. So please, it is, I can't do what you do, I can only support you. And I encourage you to please, I'm so grateful you're having this. I know we've had conversations about this and it encourages my heart, but there needs to be more conversations like these, especially with those that are involved with children. Because again, you have that first, you are the frontliners in this perspective, to really stop it and make a difference. So thank you again for all that you guys do.
Thank you for just being available to have the conversation.
Thank you.
You took this from an idea and made it our platform today, and I'm grateful. Graylin's grateful. We are grateful as the Overtown Children and Youth Coalition to have such a robust conversation today. Part of me is I'm trying not to cry because I'm so overwhelmed with
it's okay to cry.
how thankful I am for the conversation. But I think many in the country, when Epstein got arrested, then got killed, or he committed suicide.
He was killed.
Yeah, exactly. So that is my belief. He was killed.
I'm with you.
With the knowledge that he had in the network and his own private island. some people see that, okay, I can't touch that. I can't touch it. He was rich. He had all this money. He probably could get connected to anybody he wanted to, and that's what he did. And all his friends, that's what they do.
That was the message that went out, sadly, that Chrissy, that you bring that up. That's the message that goes out to all of the, victims that we work with. It's that they get away with it, because, do you think that all of what was at risk there with Epstein was all of the information that he had and all of those that were part of that ring. And there was no way, that all of those people were going to allow that information to come out. So they made sure that that information wasn't going to get out. And it's sad because it did give that message of the power, that traffickers have, and that's the message that was given to the victims. So I'm hoping, that that's something that changes, and that it doesn't matter who you are, what kind of power you have, whether you're white, black, Asian, it doesn't matter, that you are held accountable, for what you've done. And he unfortunately really wasn't held accountable, nor were, the people that he was working with.
Correct. So I think we have to, everybody watch Tiger King probably. It's the same concept.
Oh my gosh, they were exploiters, all of them.
All of them. So
I need to watch this show. I keep hearing about it. I don't understand. I'm like, why is it such a big thing? But obviously it's much bigger than the promotion. So I need to.
Horrific. They were all exploiters.
They were all exploiters. Wow. And that's what it comes down to when someone is in sex trafficking, as high up as Epstein was, and he had his network, and his buddies are probably calling on him for favors and get me this type of girl or type of boy. When you have that much power and you have that much money, it's very easy. And then you have people who are doing this out of necessity. I just want a meal. If
that's right.
A
place to sleep.
A place to sleep. I can get you a hamburger from McDonald's.
That's right.
And that is what they can get as the reward. At least I have food today. I have shelter today. Mm-hmm. What is it to give up my body?
That's right.
Because I'm safe, and this person has made me safe, and I'm safe with the unit of girls that I'm all here with.
They become family. They become family, that unit, And
can I say something, you guys?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yes.
Sure. Hi, this is Thema, and I know I just got on, so I don't know where we are in the conversation or how long you guys have been on. I just called Graylin to ask her for a favor, and then she was like, oh, you got to get on. And then I just remembered that this was on my calendar today. Mm-hmm. And it's so appropriate that we're having this conversation, because as we speak, I am writing a grant to the Office of Juvenile Justice, OJJDP, mm-hmm. and the grant is preventing trafficking of girls. And this grant is talking about preventing girls from being trafficked who are at high risk of being trafficked. Mm-hmm. Those are girls who are getting suspended from school, girls who are running away from home, girls who are fighting, getting arrested. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole population of our girls that we can help. Yeah. That we can help. And the grant is also for girls who have been through the trafficking, but they're on and they've been through a counseling program, and they're on a pathway to success. Because we know that a lot of girls that come through this, they never recover. They just never recover, and they never become successful. So this is an opportunity for girl power to step up into this arena and put some structures in place to prevent this from happening, but to also look at advocacy. Part of what we're doing is putting the girls through an advocacy program so that they can advocate for policy changes and systems changes, because that's where it is. It's system changes. The reason Jeffrey Epstein and so many men like him, and women, because women do this to women too,
Yes.
And men do it to men. So the reason why they're able to get away from it is because we have a system in place. We have policies in place that support them.
Yeah.
And so we have to change policies at a high level, starting in Washington, D.C., all the way to our state capital into our local government. And so I don't want to capitalize on the conversation because, you know, I've been doing this work a long time, and we've worked with girls that's been trafficked, or we've worked with girls who's headed that way. And all of us know a girl like that.
Yes.
All of us know a girl or some girls like that. So to the women on the phone and the good men on the phone, we have to be vigilant. We have to be looking, because it's girls right in our neighborhoods that you think is going to the grocery store, but she's not going to the grocery store. She's on her way to see a man or sleep with a man. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing. So we have to be vigilant. We have to be looking. We have to be open, and we have to know the signs. So do some research, because it's not enough for us to have the conversation. We have to take action. This is something that requires action from all of us, because this is happening to these girls, and especially girls in our community. And then the thing about Black and brown girls, when this happens to them, it's not called that. It's called something else. It's called sexual abuse. It's called this, but it's trafficking.
Or they call them prostitutes.
Yeah. Or they call them prostitutes.
They call them prostitutes. Absolutely. They call them prostitutes. They call them sluts. They call them many different names. Unfortunately,
even people in their own families.
Over there.
Absolutely, within their own
people in their family, and we do the same thing. So it's about advocating, and it's about putting procedures and policies in place, and putting some money behind this.
Absolutely.
This needs money. Yeah,
and each and every one of us changing our language, you know, because the language we use and how we label anyone really is a label that can hurt, and that label really goes a long way. I don't know if anybody had any, you know, COVID questions related. I didn't want to leave anybody out of answering anything that maybe anybody had related to the pandemic, and if there's anything that I could assist with before we go, since it's.
I have a question about the pandemic, and you guys may have said this, you may have talked about it already, but is anyone on the phone ready? I mean, in the Zoom, ready to go back to work? Are we opening our businesses? What is the general consensus with this community, especially with the Overtown community and other, at promise communities? What is the general consensus for us? Like, when are we thinking about